Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 12 of the Vuelta, España, 175 kilometers, about 110 miles in length, and it's going to be exciting from the start to the finish. So if you're watching my show, turn it off and go back and watch the video if you got 5-6 hours of free time, because you need to see from kilometer zero all the way to the finish. Now, I didn't get to see the very beginning, but I've lived it, so I know what they went through. When the cameras turn on at 95 kilometers to go, there's 3 riders just barely off the road, maybe by 20 seconds. Behind, the teams are not settled yet. The chasing has been furious, and the reason why is because there's 2 climbs at the end of today's stage. Now, when you get in this far into a Grand Tour, we're talking stage 12, you have a small team, Intermarché, with the red race leader's jersey. You know the GC teams aren't interested in controlling the race, and it's a small team that has the red jersey, so they're going to let anything go happily to get up the road and keep things calm. So at the beginning of today's stage, riders know that there's going to be a big breakaway that could possibly go all the way to the finish of today's stage. So from kilometer zero all the way to when the cameras come on, there have been attacks nonstop, and the speeds are 50, 51, 52 average kilometers per hour for the first 2 hours of racing. So when I just see 3 riders up the front, you know there's going to be some more action because it hasn't settled down. Now, 5 more riders will bridge up and make it 8. In the group behind, there'll be a crash, and looks like what's happening is the peloton's really wide, and then there's some branches on the right and left side that are going to narrow up the road. And since the peloton had been so nervous and everyone fighting to get to the front, now it's going to probably narrow up. There's going to be a big crash there, and Tobias Bayer from Alpecin Phoenix will go down, and he'll end up having to abandon at this year's Vuelta. They did say he got up. We see him sitting up there, so hopefully he's okay. My best to you, Tobias Bayer. I hope you recover fast and get back to the bike racing. Now up front, because it's still going on, 8 riders up the road. They only have about a minute and 15-second gap, and that'll be the biggest gap that we'll see on today's stage. Now, it's UAE Team Emirates behind chasing. This is crazy. Not Intermarché. They're not interested, of course. All the big GC teams, like I said, they're not interested in chasing. So there's no Ineos, there's no Jumbo-Visma, and there's no Movistar at the front. It's UAE Team Emirates, and they're setting it up. It's got to be for Matteo Trentin. He's the only guy that they got that can get over these 2 climbs at the finish. It's a Category 3 first, followed by a Category 2 that will summit with about 19 kilometers to go to the finish, and it's about 10 kilometers of flat roads all the way into the finish line. Now, the race started in Jaén and it will finish in Cordoba, but they'll pass the finish line 2 times and then, of course, come in for the final time for the win on today's race. Now, let's get into the action, because you know when 8 guys are up the road and there's 1 team chasing and the gap is only a minute and 15, that is going to be action all the way to the finish. That is the way racing plays. Now, when I woke up this morning, I got a text message from NBC saying they wanted to have me live on their coverage of today's stage 12. Problem is, their coverage started the same time mine did at 95 kilometers to go, with the crash happening with Tobias Bayer from Alpecin Phoenix, and then a Category 3 arriving fast. I knew there wouldn't be much time. So I was panicking a little bit this morning to try to be up on all the different scenarios that were possible on today's stage. With 8 guys up the road with UAE Team Emirates, can they make it over this Cat 3, followed by a Cat 2, and even be there at the finish with Trentin? Or will the GC guys attack? Then I got to pick out B sprinters that can possibly win, or pick out GC guys that could possibly win on today's stage. And the mathematics is impossible. It's a NASA problem right there. So I'm panicking, trying to get up on the information that's happening in the race to be able to give you folks that are watching the NBC coverage live at home a good story. But I know once we start getting closer to the Category 3 now, there's no way they can bring me on, because the action is going to be thick all the way up to Category 3. And that's what happens. When the Category 3 climb starts, it's 13 kilometers long, only about 3.5%. But it does have some parts where it steps, so you know you're talking about 4 or 5% for most of that climb. Now, the breakaway up front with about a minute lead, that's what's getting precarious, because you know anyone from the group behind can start attacking and bridge across that gap. Now, with 57 kilometers to go, it's Richard Carapaz Ineos that's getting dropped and coming out the back. 5 kilometers later, there's a big crash, and it's Jumbo-Visma's Primoz Roglic along with many of his teammates crashing and Team Ineos that go down with Adam Yates, Dylan Van Barle, and Puccio there. 3 Ineos riders. On top of that, 1 Movistar rider, Nelson Oliveira, my old teammate, he went off and got caught up in the barbed wire fencing. We'll see his leg and what it looks like afterwards when he gets back on the bike. The cuts are deep and it is nasty looking. Now, Primož Roglič was in and around that area where Nelson Oliveira crashed, and you'll see his Jumbo-Visma teammate in there trying to pull him out of the bushes. So we don't know if he was actually caught up in the barbed wire fence like the Movistar rider, or if Primož Roglič is okay. Now, Jumbo-Visma is chasing full gas because up front, UAE Team Emirates, like I said, they've been on the front all day and they're not stopping for Primož Roglič. Full gas all the way up the Category 3 climb. Jumbo-Visma starts coming to the back of the peloton there with about 5 kilometers later after the crash. Problem is the peloton is blowing up, so the guys they're catching are just all the riders coming off the back. Jumbo-Visma is going to have to fly around all those dropped riders and get themselves back up to the front before the descent starts proper, or it's going to be a long chase. Now, when we go over the descent, the breakaway's still up the road and they got a gap on the UAE-led peloton. Jumbo-Visma will get back on. Adam Yates, the Ineos rider, he gets back on somewhere else, but there is so much action happening in today's stage that it is never even on the cameras to see when Adam Yates returns back to the peloton. Now, when we start the Category 2 climb, up front, the action was thick in the breakaway of 8, and it just exploded as soon as the climb started. With Van Gils, Lotto Soudal rider, trying to go solo. He doesn't have much of a gap, but he's doing everything he can. The racing has been so hard up to this point in time that he's just digging as hard as he can. Behind, UAE Team Emirates is catching everyone from the breakaway that got dropped one by one as UAE Team Emirates leading it up the climb. 22 kilometers to go, still on the climb. UAE Team Emirates catch Van Gils, the last of the breakaway riders, and then 1 kilometer later there's attack from Ciccone and Jay Vine, Alpecin, Phoenix up there, and they're just trying to make it over the summit of the climb so they can descend and try to win stage 12 of the Vuelta. They get a little bit of company from behind with Romain Bardet and Haynal jumping on just before the summit, making it a 4-man break going over the top. Now behind on the descent, Trentin and Ion Izagirre, about 15 kilometers to go, are trying to bridge across. They're having problems though because they're not gaining on the front group of 4 as the front group of 4 are just flying down the sit and working well together. Every one of the riders taking a strong pull and digging as hard as they can. Peloton behind now. It's Bike Exchange that starts getting on the front just as we near the descent. They'll bring back Trentin, the UAE Team Emirates, and Ion Izagirre, Astana, but they still got the 4 riders up front, and those guys are going fast. Bike Exchange, though, are loaded with power. I mean, they got 7 guys back there, and they're all chasing for Michael Matthews. Now, Michael Matthews got dropped before the summit. 1K before the summit of that climb, managed to get back on, and now he's got almost 100% of his team on the front, and it is a nail-biter all the way to the finish. Front group of 4 got about 25-second lead on the Bike Exchange riders, and as they're going down the large street, we'll see Bike Exchange all loaded up, and then UAE Team Emirates. Trentin has 2 teammates left, so he sends them to the front to help out with Bike Exchange. With 3 kilometers to go, they got about a 10-second lead. 2 kilometers to go, it gets even narrower. With 1.4 kilometers to go, Bike Exchange and UAE Team Emirates, who are losing riders left and right coming into the finish of today's stage, catch the front group of 4. But as they're catching, they're coming into the roundabout, and it's Jay Vine, the Alpecin Phoenix rider, attacking going up the road. As he's attacking, Bike Exchange is down to just 2 riders, and one is Michael Matthews. The other is Luka Mesic. Mesic has to do everything for Michael Matthews, and we're talking 1.3 kilometers to go. That is a long time to do a lead out, and a solo rider, Jay Vine, is going under the 1K banner trying to win stage 12 at this year's Vuelta. Now let's back it up just a little bit, because let me give you some history on Jay Vine. He's solo right now with 1K to go in the Tour of Spain, a grand tour with a shot at winning, because everyone behind is blowing as Bike Exchange is just down to Luka Mesic on the front. Jay Vine, just last year in 2020, got his pro contract from winning a Swift event. That's right, we're talking about an online bike racing event that he won. Now he's in the pro ranks at a Grand Tour, at the Tour of Spain, with 1 kilometer to go and a shot at winning the stage. Now Bike Exchange is blowing back there. They're starting to ease with 500 meters to go just as they start to catch Jay Vine. It's EF Education flying up the left side of the road with the Kunik Quick Step attached on. Bagioli, he's attached on there hard as he can. Now when they fly by Bike Exchange, Michael Matthews, he's got nothing left in the legs, and he lets the gap open up, and it's Luka Mezic, his teammate on the front, who's already been on the front for about 800 meters, trying to catch Jay Vine, has to do one more big acceleration to get Michael Matthews up to the EF Education duo train, followed by the Kunik Quickstep, Baglioli. Now, Bike Exchange Luka Mezic does everything he can and then finally swings off with about 225 meters to go. They're going into a right. They're going to exit with about 200 meters to the line when EF Education, Magnus Cort Nelson, starts his sprint. Just as Michael Matthews starts to bridge back up and close the gap in front up to the Kunik Quickstep rider's wheel, it's Magnus Cort Nelson starting to sprint with about 175 meters to the line. Bagioli is attached onto his back wheel solid. Magnus Cort Nelson, let's back it up again. We got to back this show up one more time because yesterday, Magnus Cort Nelson was on the front trying to win the stage solo. With 125 meters to go, he got caught. Now it's 175 meters to go, and he's on the front with the Kunik Quickstep. Bagioli locked onto his wheel. With 75 meters to go, Bagioli comes flying off to the left side, and it's a drag race with 25 meters to go at the line and a bike throw. Magnus wins in amazing, fantastic, unbelievable style. He almost won yesterday's stage. He did win stage 6 at this year's Vuelta already on an uphill finish. Now he's winning a sprint stage amongst 60 guys that could get over the climb together. He'll win today's stage 12 to take number 2. He has 5 Tour of Spain stage victories to his resume now. Fantastic job. Congratulations, Magnus Cort Nelson. You have lit this Vuelta up on 3 different stages, won 2 of them, and I know I saw your mug on a few other stages too, so I'm not selling you too short, but those are the ones I could pull off the top of my head. Bagioli, the Kunik Quickstep rider, will finish 2nd. Michael Matthews will come in for 3rd. 4th on the stage, Matteo Trentin, his UAE Team Emirates, doing all the work. Matteo Trentin did a solid job of trying to get today's win, but he comes up short. It was a fantastic day of racing. Now behind Intermarché race leader Odd Christian Eiking, he finished in the front group and will keep his red jersey. Adam Yates did get back on. Primoz Roglic did get back on. The top 10 in general classification didn't change. It was a fantastic day of racing. As soon as you're done with the butterfly effect, go back and watch the whole stage. When you got a few hours free, I would recommend it. It was fabulous. Make sure you guys like and subscribe because there's more racing at the Tour of Spain. Primoz Roglic down for a 2nd time on today's stage. Ineos in trouble with Adam Yates. Movistar made it out of the stage without any damage that I could see, but there was a lot going on. It was a fantastic day of racing. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.